Welcome to CCS Conversations, a ColumbiaCare Services video series dedicated to talking about behavioral health, raising awareness, and hopefully sharing some helpful tips that you can use to better your own mental well-being. Today with us is Keith Porter. He's a clinical training and development specialist here at ColumbiaCare Services. Hi Keith, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Let's go ahead and start off our conversation by talking about what is generational trauma and what is it referring to?
Well, generational trauma refers to the idea of, trauma in itself can be troubling, real time, but generational trauma refers to like the idea of epigenetics, and that's the study of generational trauma that can pass down multiple generations. And so what it refers to is trauma that may have come from generations before us but are still troubling today.
And are there any other ways that it can manifest?
Well, it can manifest a number of different ways, none of them good. Things like systematic racism, abuse, rape, incarceration, war, long-standing things that have happened in society years before the current generation that if they were never fully dealt with and realized can still affect people today.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. So let's talk a little bit as well in terms of the long-term impacts that generational trauma can have if it doesn't go addressed.
Right. If trauma in general, especially generational trauma, is never addressed, then the most unfortunate news is it's going to get passed along to future generation as well. But what makes it problematic real time is the fact that there's really no forward movement, no growth. It means like people are still dealing with problematic aspects of trauma like divorce, having trouble with their interpersonal relationships, their jobs, rearing children, all the things that society says this is going to be rough, they just never really ever get resolved.
Yeah, especially if there's nobody, like you may not even be aware that you're experiencing generational trauma. So if it's left unaddressed, then that's just going to continue on and on from one generation to another. So it's really important for us to keep in mind that there are ways for us to approach it in terms of solutions and getting better care. Can you talk a little bit more about how does intersectionality relate to generational trauma?
Yes, the idea of intersectionality is that there are various aspects of humanity. I'll just give you a list of a couple things, like things we take into consideration for other cultures, like genders, religion, societal like poverty, homelessness, houselessness, that even though people may encounter that and they see it and they hear about it on the news, intersectionality says that even though you can't understand that perspective or you've never lived through it, it says to help better to understand it, you need to consider how all of those overlap. And so intersectionality says that even though you may not have experienced or gone through what another culture has gone through, if you can just admit that they do intersect, it can give you perspective of some of the prejudices that other people may have faced, even though you haven't dealt with that yourself.
Yeah, it gives you an extra layer of awareness and understanding by not only putting yourselves in their shoes as much as possible, but just being open and curious about some of the experiences that others around you have faced.
Right.
Great. What are some ways that you're able to begin the healing process in order to end the generational cycle of trauma?
Well, first and foremost, you can accept that it's a part of the familial background. It's a part of generations. Number two, you can create opportunities to discuss this, realize that it doesn't have to be debilitating, and then you can reach out and figure out what kind of supports there are for you. But most importantly, we can create healthier and better habits. So when we talk about habits of behavior and habits of thought, we can still create healthier ones for the future.
Right. Yeah, especially when we're talking about generational trauma. Some of us may not be aware of some of the trauma that we've experienced in the past, it may not be forefront in our minds. So being able to have conversations around that is super helpful. Do you have any advice for someone who suspects this is affecting their family or themselves personally?
Number one, not keep it inside. Don't keep it a secret. Reach out. Reach out for some of the supports that we talked about before and get help because it's out there.
Great. Thank you so much, Keith. Thank you so much for joining us for our discussion today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us. And thank you so much for being a part of our discussion. We look forward to seeing you in our next video. Have a great and wonderful day. Take care.